Greetings, here's a quick walkthrough of how to use the HyperIMU app if you are on the Android platform. If you're on Apple's platform, you're kind of on your own. So here I've downloaded the app already. You see I have a whole bunch of other sensor logging apps, and really almost any one of these is okay, but the one that I like the best is HyperIMU, so here I am opening it. It looks like this. You've got a number of different options. You want to select this one, which will be settings. You can change how you log the data using stream protocol. We'll be using file, but if you're interested, you can also stream over UDP or TCP. Sample time refers to how frequently the sensor data gets recorded. 100 milliseconds is the fastest time that is available, so you want to set yours to at least 100. We do want to include timestamps, because we want to know how much time has elapsed since the beginning. And then the way that you select which sensors you're going to record is list of sensors. And here you see I'm right now recording the 3-axis accelerometer, the gyroscope, the linear acceleration sensor, which is actually a software sensor where they take the accelerometer and then they try and subtract out the component due to gravity. So the result is just accelerations due to motion of the phone. It doesn't include any acceleration because you're holding it up against gravity. Same thing for the orientation sensor. The orientation refers to the three-dimensional angle in space that you're holding it at. And again, there is no single sensor which measures this. This is the result of doing some algorithms using the gyroscope and probably the magnetosensor as well. In any case, you can choose whatever you want in here. Samsung has a step detector sensor, and you're welcome to experiment with that if you want, although obviously we're going to be writing our own, so and I'm not sure how accurate this one is in any case. So select whichever sensors you want, and then once everything is kind of set up, the way that you start recording is you hit this disk, and now it's recording data. And it will keep recording until you hit it again. And now it stopped. So it's saved a file in the root file system for your phone, and we'll look at that in a second. You don't have to access that file immediately. You can record a whole series of trials if you want. So you can get set up for another trial, and then you can click it again, and now it's recording another file. And now we're done. And then we can record a third file. And now we're done. Okay, in just a second I'll show you what those files look like on the file system. So here I am on my laptop. I've hooked up the phone to the USB port. And here in the file system you see this is my phone. So if you go into the phone, all of these things that start to HIMU, these are all data files that have been recorded. And the rest of the file name is a date time stamp that tells you when they were recorded. So let's see, today is August 1st, and here you see 3 different files that were all recorded on August 1st, and then these are different times. So this looks like it was 9:18 in the morning, 9:19 in the morning, and another one at 9:19 in the morning. So in order for you to keep track of which data files correspond to which actual trials, you're going to want to roughly remember what times you started recording each of the things. So let's take a look at what these look like. They're saved as .text files, but and so I could double click on it, and this opens in Notepad, which is a particularly awkward thing to view it in. So this is not very helpful. Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy this file for a second, and I'm just going to copy it onto the desktop, and I'm going to rename it to be a comma separated value file, .csv. Your Windows may not display the file extensions here, in which case you should definitely try and change your Windows so that you do display file extensions. It might also display them if you try and edit the name here. But in any case, when you change the file extension, it's saying that now it's going to auto-detect it as a different kind of file, and that's fine. Okay, let's take a look at what's inside the file. Once you've renamed it to comma-separated value file, if you double-click and you have Microsoft Excel, it will open in Excel, and here's what that looks like. I would advise actually not viewing this in Excel, because Excel isn't showing you the raw data, it's showing you how it has parsed the raw data. So you see, in the actual file itself, it doesn't list 1.47e plus 12. It lists this number, which is the number of milliseconds since it was set in the factory, I think. But we want to see the actual raw data in the file, because you want to understand what does your Java program have to process, and you don't want to see like Excel's processed version. So I'm going to close Excel. Instead, I would recommend that you open it in some like raw text editor. So one of my favorites is TextPad. You should see something that looks approximately like this. So this is what the raw file actually looks like. You see the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines are not data. The first 5 lines are stuff for humans to read. And then starting in line 6, you see the actual comma-separated values. This is not the standard format for a comma-separated value file. Ordinarily, it wouldn't have these lines. And the first line is going to be a comma-separated list of the column names. They sort of have that here, but it's not a very good one. So your first task before you can use the programs you've already written in Java for reading comma-separated value files, your first task is going to be to rewrite whatever files you have so that they fit the correct format. So I've actually just written a little Java program that does this for me, but if you want to edit it by hand, you're welcome to do so. You want it to end up looking something like this. Time in milliseconds is the first column, and then the remaining columns are listed here. It says 3-axis accelerometer, but that's the next 3 columns, because remember, there's one value for each axis. So accelerometer X, accelerometer Y, accelerometer Z, and so on. And then the next are the linear accelerations, and so you can list some for that. And so eventually, you want your file to look like this. You want to delete the top 5 lines. You want to have the top line be the list of column names. You need to have as many comma-separated values for the column names as you have actual comma-separated values for your data here. And then you want to delete all of these hash marks at the ends of the lines. You can see why I wrote a program to do this, because it's kind of a pain. So here, I'm going to not save this. Instead, I'm going to show you what it is that my program does. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Here, I'm going to rename this as temp data file. I'm going to copy this into my Java folder, and I'll show you what it looks like when my program runs on it. So here I am in Eclipse. Accelerometer 3D is the name of my project, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here because I've been tinkering. Down here is a list of all of the data files that I've been working with. So here is the temp data file.csv. If you've copied your file into the right folder and you don't see it listed here, select the top level folder, right click and say refresh so that it will revisit the file system and update all the files, and then you should see your file. So here's what it looks like. This is the same thing that we saw before. It's this sort of undesirable format. So the program that I wrote is called Process Data Files, and here's what it looks like. So the way that it works is it's got one static method called process.csv. You give it the name of your CSV file, and then a couple of other inputs. So you tell it the number of leading rows that you want it to delete. So if you remember, we had 5 rows at the top that we didn't want, so you just tell it a number and it will delete that many rows. You give it the name of a string array that is the list of column names that you want it to have. And then there's going to be a suffix that you attach to the end of this input file name, and that's going to be the name of the output file that it writes. So in other words, it'll read this file, it will delete this many lines. Here, headers, you see, comes from up here, where I'm splitting by commas a header string. And here's my header string, and the header string is time in milliseconds, and acceleration in x and y and z, and so on. So this is exactly the list of column names that I want it to have. And then it will do all that processing, and it will save the output as this exact file name, but with -out instead. So Let me run it right now and you can see what it looks like. So temp data file.csv. And here I'm going to run it. And it looks like it's working okay. So then down here, you see walking. Nope. Where's my temp data? Okay, so you don't see the output file because I didn't refresh it. So I'll right click and I'll say refresh. All right, now we've got temp data file dash out. And if you look at it, you see it's deleted those top 5 lines and it's used my header string here as the column titles. So it's taken this and it's turned it into that. I've also, as you notice, removed the hash marks at the end here. So if you want to write that for yourself, or if a generous class person wants to write something like this and distribute it to everybody, that is totally great. But once you have something in in like the standard comma-separated value format like this, then you're actually ready to use the other stuff we've written and actually process it. Good luck!